mais elle a été formée en France?
Elle a été fondée ici en Californie par un Français qui a une boîte en France.
Ah d'accord.
Et donc il a fondé la boîte en France, il est venu ici il y a 15 ans et il s'est dit bon bah je vais faire la même chose aux États-Unis.
Ah d'accord. C'est les mêmes, c'est bien. Et c'est cher?
C'est cher, c'est abordable.
C'est abordable.
San Francisco, donc.
Oui, oui. Non mais c'est vendu où?
C'est vendu à Whole Foods, Safeway, Target, sur la table, Berkeley Ball.
Ah
je
bon,
crois qu'il y a le Rainbow Grocery.
Ça s'appelle la Tour Angèle.
Oui.
Ok, merci.
About the position, what that looks like.
Yeah, now it's better. Ici, parce que
si vous parlez français,
tout le monde comprend.
Ah bah oui. Un bout, là, à partir de là, c'est un jardin sur 2-3 rues, jusqu'au pied du pont, parc.
Ah ouais. C'est
Et
beau.
là, c'est le tunnel.
Ah bon.
C'est pas mal.
Ah bon.
Enfin, c'est plus agréable de déjeuner sur le front de mer que de déjeuner dans le bureau, quoi.
Oui, mais oui,
market,
le farmer's market.
If you can come, we're going to start the panel. You can come forward. There's space everywhere. So, welcome to the first French-American Career Fair. This is the first edition, so thank you everybody for being here tonight. First of all, I want to thank our host, DocuSign, for hosting us. As you see, the space is pretty amazing. They're always here to support, and it's really a great pleasure to organize this here at DocuSign. So we'll introduce after DocuSign with Brent, one of our panelists. For now, I want to thank all the companies that are exhibiting tonight. Thank you for taking the time. I think it's really, a great experience for the candidates and a great opportunity for them to network with you because you are in the heart of the company, you know what's happening and you know how it works. So I think it really means a lot for the French-American community and for job seekers. So thank you very much for taking the time to being here, to have booths, to explain what you do and to introduce yourselves. And I hope we can do a second edition soon. So thank you to Alten Calsoft Labs. Thank you to Atelier Emmanuel. Emmanuel is here, he's the founder of the company. Thank you to CITF, Innovative Automation Solution Provider. Thank you to DACAS. Thank you to our Docu because they're exhibiting as well, of course, and for their space. Thank you to EFBA, the only, I think, non-profit here tonight representing the non-profit industry. So Gabriel is the founder and the CEO here, and the president. Thank you to Genesis for joining us as well. To Infotech Sourcing, and Brad Miller, who is the founder and the CEO, and he's going to be our moderator tonight. To La Tourangelle as well. Thank you. Planisware, get innovation to market. I'm going to tell a little bit more about Planisware because our president is the CEO of Planisware, so I'm going to tell you who we are after. Thank you to Turo in the automotive industry, and to Wine Jobs and Jack, who is over there, for representing the wine industry with CITF. Yeah, because we represent everybody. So just a few words on the French-American Chamber of Commerce. So I'm Laurence Fabre, I'm the director of the chamber. We are a non-profit organization, so we are not governmental. This is important to know. We're a member-driven organization, so we work with all the companies that are member. And so all of you, all the exhibitors here are members, so thank you for supporting us because it's because and thank to you that we are here and that we can do these activities and organize this type of events, which is, I think, really important for the community, so thank you again. So what we do really quickly, so we foster and engage the French-American business community, so we do a lot of events during the year, the career fair, but we are also tomorrow launching La Soirée, the gastronomy and wine show, which is going to be a big party. And this year it's going to be couture garden parties. Be prepared at the SF Design Center, it's going to be pretty awesome, I think. And then we do a lot of events in the wine industry, in the tech industry, in the lifestyle industry. So you can take a look at our website. We have a calendar of everything. And if you want to join us, if you want to participate, either as a public or as a member, you're always welcome. We welcome everybody. And then we have, so we help French companies to set up their activities here and come to the US. So recruiting is one of the main, concern of the companies, the French-American companies here. So the idea of the career fair came from that, and because each time I meet CEOs, they tell me that they have problem in retaining talents or recruiting, or because Google and Facebook are hiring people for amazing compensation, so they cannot fight. And so we wanted to help them as well, to give them visibility, to make them meet awesome candidates who you are. And so we have a recruitment center online, so you can take a look. So we have a job board where if you are companies, you can send us your job offer. And we have a candidate board. So we're not recruiters because we know it's very difficult to be a recruiter, but we really try to give visibility to both parts and to give more chance to people to meet and interact. That's what we do, and we have other corporate services, so Visa, we do trade missions for companies, we do marketing and communication for our members, we have offices that we rent, we're in Union Square if you want to stop by. Tomorrow morning we have a networking cafe if you want to come. Coffee is always good at the chamber, with croissant, that's fine. So we have many activities. We're 5-6 people in the team, so here you have Jules, Axel, we have Caroline, one of our volunteers, and JB, it must be there, one of our event manager is not here tonight. But thank you to the team because they work hard. We're a non-profit, so they do amazing jobs, thanks to us, so thank you to you. So now I'm going to introduce the panelists tonight. We have the pleasure of welcoming Michelle Lim, who is Human Resources Manager at Planisware. So they're going to introduce each other right after. Then we have Brent McLean, Senior Director of Recruiting at DocuSign in the health industry. and our amazing moderator, Brad Miller, who is the founder and CEO of Infotech Sourcing. So Brad has been working with a lot of different companies in the tech industry and all kinds of industries anyway. So he knows a lot about the job market here. So we felt that he would be a great moderator tonight. So I want to emphasize on the fact that even if we're French, ask questions, participate. I mean, tonight is for you. It's for you to have access to people that can give you direct advice from the HR departments, which is a great opportunity. It's not just advice like this. It's really from the heart of the company and of the HR department. So really ask all the questions, and I think that no question is silly tonight. Even when the French and the US culture are very different when you do seek jobs. So you really don't hesitate. And thank you again, and see you after further networking. Thank you, Brett.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Lauren. So as mentioned, my name is Brad Miller. I'm with Infotech Sourcing, and I have the distinct pleasure of being your moderator this evening. Without further ado, I think we'd like to just shift our discussion and move it over to our panelists. So with that, I'd like to introduce to you our two very highly experienced, skilled, and knowledgeable panelists, and I have the honor of introducing to you on my immediate left, Michelle Lim, who is currently an HR manager at Planisware, and she manages all the onboarding and employee benefits. And Michelle has held several director and HR manager roles at various companies like Arium Pro and CSS Global Tech. Prior to that, Michelle was a graduate at the University of Irvine with a degree in management. And our next panelist, we have Brent McLean, who is currently a senior director for DocuSign. And on top of that, he actually focuses on the sales and recruiting division for them. Previously, Brent was a senior manager in recruiting at Salesforce for 5 years, is that correct? And prior to that, Brent held several roles in recruiting on the agency side. And he graduated with a BS in Management Operations from Chico State. Is that correct? That's correct. Wonderful. So, as Laurence had mentioned, our goal and objective for this evening is to get you guys prepared on several different fronts. And so we wanted to really arm you. Our objective this evening is to arm you with the right skills that we can to ensure that your resumes are in line, your interview skills are in place, and you're doing everything you can to increase the odds of finding that right next career fit and the next job. So with that, I know we're all familiar with the current job market across the nation and all the components of unemployment being at several year lows. And on top of that, the Bay Area is even has lower numbers than across the nation. It's a hyper-competitive marketplace. There's a lot of challenge, and I think our company is working 171 openings for our clients just this quarter alone. So with that, we wanted just to shift it over to a few different generalized areas that we've heard, and Laurence had mentioned several times. What is or what does it take to really have a resume that stands out? How can you differentiate yourself on paper, and what do you see from a hiring manager perspective, internal inside an organization? What is important to you as you look at a resume within the first 10 to 15 seconds? Michelle, you want to start us out?
Thanks. I think for me, it shows in a resume if the candidate had actually researched about our company. So for me, it stands out that if your resume is tailored to the skill set, your skill set, and what the company is looking for. It's very easy to spot if the resumes are copy-paste or it's the same resume that you've been sending 100 times to different employers. So it stands out to me if you give enough time that you actually tailor and personalize it based on whatever position you're applying for. So that stands out, I think, the best, because we just, we have so many templates out there, and just like with little thought that comes into it, it's so obvious. So for us, that you actually took your time to research about our company and the job description, and then I think you can create a better resume, because you'd have to highlight the skills that are important for that particular job.
Okay, very good. Brent, do you have a thought on that?
That's a great answer. Michelle, I would say things that stand out to me about good resumes, just the simple basic, like very concise, right? You gotta be concise and clean, get to the point quickly. But I think the biggest thing that stands out about great resumes are highlighting your accomplishments, right? I think a lot of people get a little wordy in describing what their role is, and that's really for an interview, for someone to kind of dive in and understand the core responsibilities that you've held. In the resume, ideally on one page, you really want to highlight what you've done. What have you accomplished? What have you brought to the organizations that you've worked at previously?
And what do you both think about tailoring a specific resume or CV to a job description and highlighting certain areas for a specific role?
I guess for me, because there's a lot of applicants, right? So unfortunately, we don't get to spend as much time per resume, so that's why we want that your resume stands out. So that's where tailoring your resume will be really important. So for example, if it's a technical position and we're looking for a particular skill set, we don't want to see like a 2-page resume, very detailed. Like he said, it should be concise. You should highlight that, okay, you know what, this job description requires this skill. So you make sure that probably on a professional summary, that will be good too, because that's like the headline of your resume on top. So it just, like your accomplishment and what you're good at. So that would be really good.
Yeah. Remind me your name?
Yeah.
What question did you ask me at the booth?
How can I be sure that my resume doesn't get stuck into the applicant tracking system and some human being can read it?
So he asked me, how can I be sure that my resume doesn't get stuck in the applicant tracking system, the dark hole of resumes? And then he asked me if we review every resume. And we do, absolutely, we have to. We ran some numbers on an opening that we have at DocuSign, Customer Success Management opening. And we've got this position posted at maybe, 6 or 7 different locations throughout North America. Guess how many, someone guess, throw out a number of how many applicants we get on average in a given week. 1 week.
800.
That's huge, no. 300, which is a lot. 1,500, I would jump out the window. We have to review all of those resumes, right? And when we're doing that, there's a stat out there, Brad, you may know the stat, but how long, what is the average time that someone usually reviews a resume? It's like 5 seconds, right? So to their point, tailoring your resume, to my point, concise, like make those accomplishments jump out. If I'm gonna review a resume, I wanna make sure that I see within 3 seconds that this person's gonna be a good fit for the opportunity. I don't have to read through it. I don't have time.
Just a quick one. What about job scan?
Sorry?
What about job scan to tailor your resume to the job description?
It's actually a good question. So to follow up on our answers, it would be best, like I said, when you're researching about the company, you'd have to use a certain keyword. So a lot of companies now uses a lot of tools to help us, look for candidates, filter candidates. So you have to make sure that you spend enough time for the job description because, for example, I'm looking for somebody who has Java experience. Obviously, when I go to an ATS system, I search somebody with 5 years with Java. So, but if you just said something that's not detailed enough, then you're not going to appear in those search. So I think that's the black hole.
So now that we have established the criteria for the perfect resume and we've gotten the job interview, let's shift to what do you see are common mistakes in interview processes or common mistakes that candidates make or areas where they can focus to help highlight their interview skills. We all know that can be stressful. So how would you recommend the candidates here go about preparing for their interview process? You want to start, Sal?
For me, I don't know if I said it enough. I think when we interview people, we actually really know that if you did your part to prepare yourself, believe it or not, there's a lot of interviews that we've had and they went in there without knowing what actually jobs they're applying for. It's like, I want to be polite, but you just wasted my 2 seconds. You know, so we want to make sure that you are a right fit for us, right? We are in the business of hiring the best talents. We want you to stay with us for a long time. So I think as a courtesy in return, we want to make sure that you research very well, because it will show on your interview. So when you go there and you did your part, you're actually more calm, right? Than very nervous, just to maybe thinking that, okay, what's the next question she's gonna ask me, right? Because all of your skills, that's you. So it's not something that you should highlight or lie about or anything. So those will come naturally. I think just the curveballs will just be about the company and the job description.
Brent?
Absolutely, you have to research the company, right? You got to know what you're interviewing for. You know, I've spent most of my career in cloud and SaaS-based companies, typically headquartered here in the Silicon Valley. But I've noticed that just to be part of the playing field these days, companies have to have a cultural philosophy, right? Not just what they do, what type of product, but who are they as a company? Who are they as a culture? At DocuSign, we're very proud of our impact program. We volunteer. We spend a lot of time volunteering. We have a global impact day where every single employee throughout the company on a single day spends their time volunteering. It's those type of things, I think, which separates candidates from the folks that just research the company and the product, to folks that really try to understand what the company is about, what is their culture, right? I think that's one important piece. The other important piece, and I'll probably reference this a couple times throughout the panel today, is looking at your LinkedIn network, right? We're all, and you all should be, connected with hundreds and thousands of people that are in the industries that you're going after. It's very likely that you may know someone at the company that you're applying to, or you may know someone who has left the company that you're applying to. And for you to make those personal connections and try to chat with someone, try to connect with someone and seek their advice as to, hey, what was it like to work at DocuSign? What was it like to work at Salesforce? Give me tips in regards to interviewing. And at the end of the day, you may find they have a connection to someone who you potentially could be interviewing with that could potentially put in a good word for you.
So Brent, you mentioned the culture, and Michelle, you mentioned that knowing the role, and I will just reiterate that we often see at Infotech Sourcing a lot of candidates that don't spend enough time studying the job description or that culture. So I can't stress enough how important it is to really understand your role. That's a cheat sheet on where the conversation is going to go for the hiring manager, and they're going to want you to share examples, tangible examples on each of those bullet points in that job description, and if you can, how it relates to kind of their culture and how they would do things. So understanding that is critical to your success and the aspect of being calm and cool and collected in that interview process. So know your job description, because if you can discuss your narrative on top of that job description and how it relates to your background, you're that much closer to succeeding and getting hired. Okay, thank you for sharing those. And then, the all infamous follow-up. How important is the follow-up these days? Is it as important as the past? Does it get passed on to the hiring manager all the time? Give us some insight into the follow-up and how somebody can really just determine whether they're still a viable candidate.
I actually support people who actually follow up after an interview, but not just a simple follow-up, like, okay, thank you for meeting me yesterday. I would actually want that sometimes when you go on an interview, you talk to like maybe 5 people, right? It depends on the position. So if you highlight something like, thank you for talking to me and I really agree on this area. So it will show us that you're very attentive during the interview and you actually got some good insights. So I think that's a plus for for just doing a courtesy follow-up after the interview.
Very good. Brent?
I think follow-up communication is kind of table stakes for trying to get a job. I spent most of my career in sales recruiting, and for salespeople, if you don't follow up, you're pretty much out, right? It's almost as simple as that. As for follow-up, I think a generic just say thank you for the interview it doesn't really cut it these days. When we prep a candidate for an interview, we always encourage them to close every interview, right? And in closing an interview, we always suggest asking if the interviewer has any hesitations or any concerns about their background, right? And in doing so, you want to try to address those concerns when you're in the interview. But what a great forum in the follow-up email to also address those concerns. And that way you're really tailoring your follow-up message to the information you gleaned in the interview and kind of what that individual is looking for in a good candidate.
Sure, that's very good.
And just to add, you know, sometimes when you're new in applying stuff or just because you just relocated to US, for example, I would really advise to get in touch with a recruiter because a recruiter will guide you on all of the process. If you think that your resume is very generic, they can help you make it more professional. They can coach you on interviews. You don't have to be stuck with a recruiter, but I'm just saying it's a good step one for you to at least get acclimated on the practices here in the US. And it will help you just coaching wise, telling you, and they know a lot about the company that they're representing, right? So it's also your cheat sheet in knowing the company as well. So I think you should utilize your resources very well.
Very good. That's great feedback. Just shifting towards some industry trends. I mean, we're seeing business intelligence going to take over, algorithms take over. Where do you see the industry trending towards with regards to human resource, and how will that impact some of the interviewing process, some of the vetting process, some of the assessment of resumes? Do you have thoughts on that?
I think now that the industry is getting more diverse and we have before we were just, I think San Francisco will just be a tech boom, and now it's like becoming pharma and stuff. So HRs are more branching out. So before you have probably an HR director, HR manager, and a team of recruiters, now I can see getting towards more HR business partners wherein they actually specialize in a specific division or department, which I think will help because then they know more about the specific area of expertise. It doesn't have to be for example, for me, right, which is a smaller company, so I manage the entire company for HR purposes. But if you're applying for more of a bigger company, probably like DocuSign or Google or Facebook, they have HR business partners, so you should get in touch with those people because it depends on what industry or what division you're applying for. That will help a lot.
Very good. Grant, you have some thoughts?
Can you rephrase your question so I understand?
Sure.
Was it how technology plays in the
how
interview cycle?
technology is going to impact the industry of HR and recruiting going forward over the next 5 years? How do you see it impacting the industry, and how can our candidates tonight start to tailor into that?
Yeah. I may not be the best guy to answer this question because I'm kind of old school. Technology is definitely surfacing in interviewing. At DocuSign, we use quite a bit of different technology. We use a tool called Predictive Index, and it's a survey that all of our candidates fill out prior to the interview, and it creates a profile. We also survey all of our top performers within the company, and so we're able to match the candidate's profile to our top performers, right? Another piece of technology that we at times leverage is a tool called HireVue. HireVue is just a video interviewing platform. But like I said at the start of this answer, I'm kind of old school. Nothing replaces human connection, right? And I think that's kind of the utmost, most important thing in considering and making yourself successful in the interview process. How do you connect with people, right? And I always come back to looking at your network and trying to get connections in. We were, one of my recruiters and I were prepping a candidate for an interview this week, and he was with a company that I knew that we had a few employees today that were former employees of this company. So we asked the candidate, hey, who do you know here at DocuSign? And this gentleman listed 4 or 5 different people. And so we reached out to every single one of those folks, and they wrote us this fabulous endorsement about this candidate. And we sent every single one of those endorsements to the hiring manager. That guy's gonna get the job, right? Because of that connection. So again, there is technology. Technology plays a piece in the recruitment process. It'll continue to play. There will be more technology. At the end of the day, it's kind of up to you guys to make that connection with the companies that you're interviewing with.
One of the final questions before we shift it open to an open QA session Talk to us a little bit about the importance of the hard functional skill of an individual and a candidate versus the soft skill. What percentages do you weigh those, and how valuable are they to a culture?
I think it would depend on what type of position they're applying for. You know, I think the percentage would vary if you're a technical position and you're client facing. So soft skills will matter a lot. If you're something that a software developer that you're just in-house and developing products, then it might not be. You know, but I think I would suggest that regardless of what type of position, that you brush up your soft skills a lot, because your soft skill will be the one that gets you in the door, right? When you go in an interview, if you cannot get your message across, even if you're like the best, probably it will be very hard to vet your skills if you can't really explain and tell us, you know, what your skill sets are.
So at DocuSign, we've rolled out an interview scorecard, and it's basically taking a look at the various different, and I'm going to speak to the group that I know best, sales. And it breaks down the various competencies that we look for in a good candidate for a sales position. And typically those competencies are business acumen, negotiation ability, team player, collaborative, and competitive. And the very top two are team player and collaborative. And I think that in this day and age, it's so important that we're building a culture, right? We're building a group of employees that are out to help each other elevate their game and their skills. And to me, the soft skills is almost ahead of the hard skills. And again, totally agree with Michelle, it depends on the role. Like a software engineer may be a little bit different. But at the end of the day, a software engineer, they've got to mesh well with their team. Because they've got each individual that we look to hire has got to come in and elevate every single one of the team members around them.
Very good, very good. So I think right now we'd like to just open it up to you all and figure out what questions you'd like to ask the panel. They are very experienced, very skilled, very knowledgeable, and we'd like to arm you with the right skills as needed. So who has a question? Jude?
Being a recruiter, I come across a lot of candidates that have a career gap of 6 months, 8 months. Usually I see moms that have been in the job market, but because of their situation, they still want to get back into market. How would you address those type of candidates who have career gaps?
Yeah, so I don't really think that there's like a big disadvantage if you have a career gap, as long as you could probably justify what you did on your career gap, right? And then especially in how long that you've been, and I think just basically it cannot be just like one isolated that okay, you have a career gap, you're out the door, right? It has to be your like entire work experience or entire portfolio.
Sure. I like telling stories, so I'll give two different stories. You have a career gap of 6 months. One candidate says, hey, I went and traveled the world, I got all these cool experiences. The other candidate says, I've been interviewing for jobs for 6 months. Don't say that. I know it's a no-brainer, but my point is, I agree, career gaps, I like them. I love to see people that took a risk and set their career down and went and gained some experiences that'll probably help them bring different perspectives to the workplace. If we just hire the same people that have been doing the same thing and never taken a break, it's not good. So, as long as you have a compelling story around what you were doing during that break.
Yeah, I had a question about, because we are in the French-American environment now, so I have a very specific question about the French people coming to San Francisco. How do you see the French people, for example, the salespeople, in the American market? Are you going to facilitate them have a job in San Francisco, or do you really hate our accent, for example? I mean, how do you see the French people working in San Francisco? That's my question. And what is the reputation of French people coming here?
We love French people. My brother lived in Saint-Germain-en-Laye for 8 years. Saint-Germain. I'm not, I don't speak French, liquor French, so I'd have to reference him. The Bay Area is one of the most diverse places in the world.
Best place to be.
Right? There is no roadblocks. In fact, I would use your French background as an advantage. And I think you have a lovely accent. All you gotta do is just get on the phone. That's why you're in sales right now. But no, I don't think that should be a roadblock at all. And again, I mean, that's the beautiful thing about the Bay Area, is diversity. And we recently at DocSign hired a gal that her role is diversity and inclusion. Her job is to go out and find diversity. So that could be an advantage for you all.
Just a follow-up on a question. I would put it a little bit differently. Do you think that a French guy, just fresh off the board, has some problem to find the code of an interview the way you expect it?
Sorry.
You don't understand? Okay. There is some rule, some code when you go interviewing. And I think that may be different for a French guy than an American guy. Are you aware of this kind of difference? Do you see this kind of difference? Or do you think that when you interview a French guy, you expect the same things that when you interview a guy in the US that's been interviewing, let's say, every 2 years?
I believe it doesn't matter where you come from. General principles of interviewing are the same. You know, courtesy, be polite, highlight your professional summaries. But I think it's more about your confidence. So I'm not sure if this is your personal experience. So based on what I said earlier, if you feel like this, then I would suggest you get linked with a recruiter so that you get acclimated on what are the US practice if you want to know it, right? On how should I set up my interview, right? And how should I answer probably a few questions just to make sure that you get your message across. But yeah, just bottom line, I think very basic principles will apply everywhere you go, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Who else?
Hi everyone, I have a question regarding following up. As you mentioned before, if you don't hear after a couple of days by a recruiter for an interview, does it mean like it's a really bad sign? Or there is always this fear as a candidate of being too much insistent maybe. So what's your advice? Should we follow up after a week, or what's the advice regarding this?
I think it's a great question. And I can speak from experience that overly persistent candidates, that can be a turnoff, right? It's almost like you have to learn to respect and kind of balance the time of the folks that are interviewing. I've always said interviewing is a full-time job on top of your other full-time job, right? You think of hiring managers, they've got to go do their job, but then they also spend a lot of time hiring and interviewing. But you probably won't get the attention or the follow-up that you want unless you are proactive, right? So I don't know that there's like a specific guideline around how long you should wait. If it's a day or two, yeah, you can follow up. But if you're working with a recruiter or whoever your contact is within that company, you guys have all the power in the world to set the expectations and ask that question. When should I expect to hear from you? And if I haven't heard from you by this date, when should I follow up with you? Right? I think that's a wonderful question. I love it when candidates ask that question.
And just to follow up, it will also be a good idea at the end of your interview to just ask whoever interviewing you is that, okay, what are the next steps? It should give you at least a little bit of timeline to know, like, okay, how much do I wait? When do I follow up?
So my question is kind of in the same line, but when you know you're supposed to follow up and how persistent you can be about actually getting a firm date. As a mom, when I'm looking for a job and I have to pay for childcare, I actually need to get organized to go to an interview, and saying, oh, I'll see you in 2 days, and you don't know if it's at 9 or if it's 5 or what, it's really a problem if you can't set up any plans, and babysitters are hard to find. So I was just wondering how much you can like pressure someone to like give you a time so you can set this thing up.
And are you referencing like a time for the interview?
Yes.
I would say if that's happening, don't interview with that company. That's a bad sign. And just so I understand, like you're interviewing with companies where they're not telling you like when to arrive?
No, they're just saying, oh, let's meet next week, and then they just don't give you a date, and then they're like, oh, are you okay tomorrow at 3 p.m.? So you have very limited time to get organized.
I hear you as a mom. I'm also a mom, which I think shout out to all moms out there. But yes, I think that would be a good time for you to send a courtesy email recapping your first interview, I would say, and maybe just sort of lead the question to like, oh, just about our interview. I was just expecting you already have a definitive time in the next 2 days. So sort of lead the conversation there that they don't have a chance to like further postpone it, but rather give you a more definitive time.
And that's what I did, but it's just kind of have to remind them, could you let me know what time? So I just didn't know how persistent I could turn for a company, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing I would add would be creating some leverage. Sharing that you're interviewing at other opportunities, and that you need to kind of move the process along. For us, that's a sign of a good candidate, right? If it can't, we'll always ask the candidate where else you're interviewing. We just want to know, right? We want to help kind of facilitate the process. But if a candidate has 6 other job opportunities lined up and interviews, probably a pretty good candidate, and we're gonna move really fast to make that happen. Brad had asked if I was going to give a review of DocuSign about 30 seconds before he handed me the mic, and so I told him I'd again tell a story. Today we had a candidate that was interviewing at another company, and this candidate received an offer, and to my point, evidence like, hey, this is a great candidate. The offer that he had received expired at 5 p.m. this afternoon. We were still interviewing it. So we finished the interview process today, and we decided that we wanted to extend an offer, but it had to be done by 5 p.m. So with DocuSign, we got 7 different approvals done within an hour, right? Multiple people have to sign off on the offer between HR and recruiting and compensation and sales, and we got this done. We executed this document within 1 hour, but we did it so fast because this candidate had this other opportunity. You may not always have other opportunities, I'm not telling you to lie, but it is, it does kind of help create urgency with the companies that you're interviewing with.
It is amazingly effective in being transparent and communicating your needs to a potential employer and how fast they can perform for you, and that is a good example. We have time for maybe 2 more questions. Who else?
As an interviewer, what are the top, what are the 2 or 3 questions that are unconventional that you like to ask candidates to learn more about them and uncover things that maybe the basic questions about skills will give you an answer?
So, I don't know that I have a great answer to that question, and it's probably, my background again is based purely on, for the most part, sales recruiting. We don't ask unconventional questions, right? At the end of the day, we want to understand, what is your experience? Have you been successful? What is your philosophy in selling? What is your business acumen? And it depends on the company and the culture that you interview at. I've heard of, some fairly innovative, if you want to call them that, companies in Silicon Valley ask that very unconventional question to throw people off. I'm not a believer of that. At the end of the day, as an interviewer, I want to explore what are the core skills that's going to make this person successful. This isn't very unconventional, so it's not really answering your question, but when we interview people, we want to get to know them, though, as a person, right? So sure, we want to go through and understand their core skills that they can bring to the table, but we also want to get to know them as an individual. So it's not super unconventional, but that's something that we always like to inquire with candidates.
One last question.
So it's always hard to like talk about money, and so sometimes when you're having an interview, like the recruiter will ask you what are your salary expectations. So what is the best answer that we could give them?
Not to say anything. So it is, as of January 1st this year, it's illegal. It's illegal for an employee in California. Yeah. So yeah, it's very. As an employer, we can legally no longer ask how much you earn.
The employers can ask what their expectations are. Yes.
That's not asking how much you earn.
Correct.
So you have the freedom. You have the freedom to share that information, right? So by no means can someone force you to share your comp, right? And if that is the case, I don't know who you should go to, but you should go to someone. At DocuSign, we ask that exact question. We say, what are your expectations, right? And that's not, you don't necessarily need to share your exact comp. It is sharing what you desire to make. For the most part, people will share what their compensation is, right? But again, you legally now are protected. You do not have to share your compensation.
Yeah, but like usually they ask you like, what are you looking for, like expectations, right? And you need to kind of like give them some sort of range. But the problem is that if you give something, then I mean, it's complicated to manage as a question.
This would probably be a better question for you guys, but I've always been taught shoot high, right? And I read this book, What Color is Your Parachute, right? And this book describes in salary negotiation, if your number is 100K, your expectations that you communicate are 100 to 120K. So if they land at the very bottom of that scale, you still hit the number that you're seeking. But you gotta be careful because you can't outprice yourself.
Yeah, that's the problem.
So I would generally recommend like try to kind of, your expectations should fall in line with what you're making today. Like they should be similar because what you're making today is based on your level of experience.
Try researching too. Even if you just like Google it, depends on the position, it will give you what are the range for a similar type of business and what size and what industry, so that you can have at least a broad range and you can give it. But if you are not, if you think that you are in your life that you are negotiable, don't feel pressure to give a number to the recruiter. Just say I'm negotiable, because I'm at this point in my life that I can actually be flexible on what I want to make.
So, no worries. So in,
I have the question is,
sure.
not that I'm seeking a job.
You can't ask.
I have a question because I mean I was also people send me message sometimes like are you hiring and do you like when people using network with technology like LinkedIn, how do you use it and how is it wise to use it? Like if you see people that see like for instance job offer at DocuSign and they contact you directly on LinkedIn because they saw your recruiters there saying like, hey, I saw this job offer, can we meet for a coffee or something? I mean, is it something that you can do or is it something you can do? I mean, for a lot of people, using LinkedIn can be, a bit tricky. You don't know each time when you have to do it and when you can't or when you shouldn't, actually.
You're asking like if you're the applicant?
Yeah, if you're the applicant, you see a job offer, for instance, on the website, and you say, well, maybe to have more point of contact at DocuSign, I'm gonna, contact Brent because I saw on LinkedIn that he was a recruiter there, so I'm gonna try to connect directly with him to, get attention.
What's the protocol? Is that acceptable?
So I think I would always follow, because I think one of my critiques when I'm looking for an applicant, if they follow the instruction on my job posting. But I don't close my doors if somebody actually reached out to me directly, because for me, it shows that they're resourceful. They want to have like get a step ahead versus all the other candidates that are applying for that position. And I think it just depends on what are the next steps after that. Might not be coffee, but it's more like, okay, can you send me like your resume and we can see if it's a good match and then we can go forward from there.
My philosophy with LinkedIn, I would always err on the side of using it to your advantage. That one role that I talked about where we average about 300 applicants on a given week. We don't respond to people that reject, unfortunately. We wish we could, right? We reject them in our system. We only respond to people that we're moving forward with. However, anybody that sends me a note on LinkedIn, I respond to, because it's a personalized outreach. And again, I'm thinking kind of along the lines of the group that my team recruits for, and that is sales. Good salespeople network, and they leverage tools such as LinkedIn. LinkedIn is such a powerful tool. Again, kind of what I recommended to you guys is you can just apply to a role, and to your point, your application will fall into that black hole. But if you can do a little research and see who you're connected to on LinkedIn and reach out to them and see if they can make an introduction. And I spoke to a lot of you today that just moved here, and you may not have a ton of people that are connected. But you know what? The few people that you are connected to may have second and third line connections. And through LinkedIn, there's some really cool technology where you can have a second or third line connection introduce you to who you'd want to be a first connection. So absolutely use LinkedIn.
So in closing, we hope we were able to arm you with all the examples and good questions and good content that would help you land that next job. If you have additional questions, don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us via LinkedIn. We invite that. On top of that, I just want to thank Laurence and her team and French American Commerce and DocuSign and their team for hosting us here tonight. All the companies that participated here as well, you attendees, and most importantly, our panelists. Can we get a quick round of applause?
So we're going to serve a cocktail here, and we'll put
Non, parce qu'on travaille pas ensemble, enfin on travaille.